Welcome to Making the Cut podcast with Chris Hill and Sean Winter, where we help you succeed in life and business by sharing principles and strategies that guide some of the most successful people in the world.
Welcome to episode 27 of the Making the Cut podcast. I'm Chris Hill with my co-host, Sean Winter. Today on the show, we have Aaron Walker, a businessman and life coach who has inspired many through his leadership, mentorship, and consistent pursuit of excellence. Before hopping into the show, Sean, how about a quick word from our sponsor?
That's right, Chris. If you're ready to turn your ambitions into reality, for more than 120 years, the name Le Cordon Bleu has been synonymous with culinary excellence. From cuisine, food design, nutrition, to wine, and hospitality management, Le Cordon Bleu offers a wide range of programs for aspiring culinary professionals to become part of a great tradition of excellence, with credentials that will set you apart from the competition in a demanding and changing industry. Apply now at cordonbleu.edu. And with that, Chris, I'm excited to talk to Aaron Walker today. I think he's got a really interesting story. And I love one thing that he says is that life is more of a journey. It's not a destination. I like to think that I ascribe to that, even though I get caught up from time to time in the daily grind and all of that stuff. But yeah, I'm pretty excited to talk with him. How did you connect with him?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I first connected with him through Jeff Goins. And he's in that same kind of circle with Michael Hyatt, and I know he's in a mastermind with Dave Ramsey and a bunch of other Nashville bigwigs. But Aaron definitely has had the journey himself. He started, he's grown 12 companies, and actually became a millionaire by the time he was 27. Now Aaron's business is helping others and believes experience is a great teacher. With 35 years of entrepreneurship and marriage, they have certainly given Aaron a wealth of experience himself. Aaron is also the author of View from the Top, Living a Life of Significance, where he shares insights from the lessons he has learned along the way to help others find hope and inspiration. So yeah, Sean, I'm super excited to hear his story firsthand. I know it's going to bring a lot of value and perspective to everyone listening, and he's a really powerful storyteller as well. So let's get into it.
Sounds good.
Aaron, thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing today?
Chris, I'm doing good, buddy. Thank you for you and Sean hosting me today. It's an honor to be on your show.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you. Well, you have quite an interesting story. Some high highs and obviously some lows as well that you've read and spoken about. Maybe we can start things off with maybe you sharing a Cliff Notes version of your story.
Yeah, real quick. I grew up in Nashville, Tennessee, and 13 years old, started working for a local retailer. I didn't have any money, so I had to meet some guys with it, and I did. Found them at 18 years old, partnered with them, started our own business, grew it to 4 stores, sold out to a Fortune 500 when I was 27. So I was like done. And I'm like, dude, this is the American dream. I mean, it doesn't get any better than this. You go from broke at 18 to being able to retire at 27. And my life was amazing for about 18 months. Then I became pretty depressed. I was getting in the bed. In the middle of the day, I gained 50 pounds in 18 months. And my wife woke me up one day from a nap. And like Sean, I was getting in the bed. I wasn't like getting on the bed. I was depressed. My wife said, I didn't sign up for this. You need to go back to work or buy a company. You got to do something. Went back and bought the company I started with when I was 13. I worked 3 days a week. My partner worked the other 3 days. And we did that for a decade. I mean, it was like utopia. Until August 1st, 2001, I was headed to the office, and man, I hate to have to tell you this, but I ran over and killed a pedestrian a mile from my office. And guys, it radically impacted my life. So I won't take you through that whole story, but they called me on a Saturday morning, 3 days after the accident, and they said Enrique was the guy's name. He didn't make it. And it was like you drove a stake through my heart. I was like, you got to be kidding me. Like, I've got this life that's amazing. I'm 40 years old, have 2 beautiful daughters, a wife that is unbelievable. My life was like perfect is the way it felt until that day. And it changed everything. Like, we started thinking through it. Robin and I are both Christ followers. And so we prayed through it and we said, hey, let's sell the business. You've been chasing money since you were 13. Let's take a break. So I did. I took 5 years off. I didn't do anything. We traveled. We built a new house. We kind of changed locations and still living here in Nashville. And 5 years later, Robin goes, hey, you're getting fat and lazy again. It's time to go back to work. So we started a construction company. It became very successful over the next 7 years. At 50, I retired again. Robin said, you've retired more than the law allows, but I did at 50. And I've been in a mastermind group with Dave Ramsey and Dan Miller, Ken Abraham, some of those guys you may or may not know. And they said, what are you going to do now? And I said, nothing. And Dan Miller said, hey, what do you mean nothing? He said, you've tried this 3 times. Every time you go back and do something else. He said, you need a coach. And so I started coaching, started doing podcast interviews. Now we have national and international clients where I help ordinary men become extraordinary every single day. We started Iron Sharpens Iron Mastermind Groups, and we just launched our 10th Mastermind Group. We have 5 countries represented now in our groups, and we've got about 100 guys that we coach every day, and we're absolutely having the time of our life. So there's 38 years in about 5 minutes, guys.
Condensed down. Wow. So, I do want to jump back to that period in your life, because it sounds like that caused you to be extremely reflective and potentially change your course of either direction or way of thinking. Can you just talk a little bit about that?
Well, it did completely, Sean. Thank you for asking that. But it completely did. And here's what I started thinking about. I started feeling pretty guilty. And the reason is because I reflected back on my life, and you start reflecting when you have something major happen in your life, and started reflecting back. And I said, what would I be remembered as? Like, when I die, somebody gets up and they speak about me. What are they going to say? They're going to say, poor kid from Nashville, Tennessee, makes enough money to retire at 27 and nobody cares. And I felt this urgency to do something to change that. And so Robin and I talked through it. My wife of 37 years now, we got married 2 weeks out of high school. So we grew up together, literally. And so we said, what can we do to impact the lives of other people? Like, nobody cares that we have a great life. Nobody cares that we have a nice house and a place on the beach and we have all this stuff. Nobody cares, and it's not impacting anybody's life. So we changed the model, and we said, we're going to focus outward. We're going to be a giver, not a taker. And we're going to reach out and help other people achieve their goals and dreams. And we did that through our other businesses. And here's what is so ironic as a result of that. We're twice as successful financially now as we were. Isn't that amazing how when you take your focus off yourself, how you become much more successful, not only financially, but significant along the way? So we spend about a third of our time now trying to give back.
That's really cool. One of the things I try to preach to my audience about a lot is, make it about the people that you're trying to serve, whether that be your customers or the people, in your life, your family, your coworkers. Can you just touch a bit on that?
Chris, here's what happens invariably, though. We're afraid. We're afraid to show our cards. It's like, if they know the secret sauce, then I won't have the edge. And there's nothing further from the truth. And I'll give you an example, this to be true. When I was in the construction industry, we were one of the elite builders in Nashville, Tennessee. We built high-end residence and small commercial. There were about 10 builders in the Middle Tennessee area that were the elite builders. And so we got together. Instead of fighting, we forged an alliance, and we started the Master Custom Builder Council. And it was where we came together the 4th Thursday in every month in a boardroom, and we shared best practices. We shared vendors. We shared subcontractors. When I wasn't busy with someone, another builder needed him, he could use him. The vendors started coming in and pitching to the top 10 builders saying, if you guys would buy in volume, we'll discount it to this price. Well, you know what happens then? It makes you more competitive. And when you're more competitive, you get more business. In the last year I was in construction, I became friends with those guys. All of our businesses increased. Those 10 builders did $115 million in business that year, the last year I was in business. We would have a parade of homes every year, and we would donate all the money back to charity. So everyone became a winner as a result of forging our resources and our relationships, rather than going, hey, I can't share, can't tell, I'm not going to show you the secret sauce. And what I've learned is you can do this in any industry, and I've done it time in and time out. I had a guy call me, his name's Tom, recently. I was at home on my couch, and just before supper, and the phone rang. I normally don't answer it at that time of the evening, but I just felt compelled to, so I did. He said, hey, my name's Tom. I want to join your mastermind. He said, but I've got to tell you before I join, I want to coach just like you're coaching, and I want to lead masterminds just like you're doing. And I said, praise the Lord, man. Come on. I'll teach you everything I know. And he said, what? Are you kidding me? He said, I thought you were going to tell me I couldn't join. I said, listen, there are millions of people that can use your services. And I had rather teach you how we're doing it so that you do it in a way that you don't have the learning curve. And as a result of that, he promotes us. He brings people. See, he shares. If you want the natural reciprocity, you want it to come back to you, you start giving and you watch how things 10x in your favor.
Boy, that's incredible. Now, you touched on something. You touched on fear. You had mentioned fear at one point. So what would you say to those individuals that are fearful about really putting themselves out there because they're maybe, they don't trust people, they think they're going to get taken advantage of, or what would you say to them?
Let me help you with one thing. You're going to be taken advantage of. It's the cost of doing business. I'm just telling you right now, for sure, you're going to be taken advantage of. But the other way is miserable. This way is amazing. I lay in bed at night and I think, man, I helped this guy, helped him get where he needs to be. I helped these people accomplish their goals and dreams. It's the Zig Ziglar thing, right? Help enough people get what they want. It is true. And here's the thing about fear. I have a saying for fear. Fear missing an opportunity more than you fear failure. Who cares what other people think anyway? The truth of the matter is that's not going to affect your destiny one way or the other, what they think. I just got off of a call where I interviewed Jay Samit. Jay wrote the book Disrupt You. He's an amazing guy. He's raised hundreds of millions of dollars for VCs all over the world. The guy is incredible. He said the same thing. He said, you've got to learn to get over that fear. Here's what it is. It's the 18-30-60 rule. When you're 18 years old, everybody's talking about you. When you get 30, you discover that they're really not. And when you get 60, you don't care. The truth is nobody is sitting around their dinner table talking about your successes or failure, but it's what holds everybody back. You've just got to work through that. Gay Hendricks wrote the book, The Big Leap. And it helps you push through these upper limit challenges. That's why you've got to have people around you to help you. That's why I've been in an accountability group for 30 years. That's why I've been in Mastermind for 20 years. You can't do this alone. The enemy to excellence is isolation. And if you want your life to go to a different height, you've got to get people around you that can help you. Stop being afraid.
Well, and Aaron, I've also heard you speak along the same lines of, when you have a job, your career, maybe it's finding significance through the work you're doing, not necessarily through, starting something for yourself. I can't remember how you phrased it before.
Well, here's the thing. A lot of people think that you've got to find this huge amount of significance in your occupation. And I don't necessarily subscribe to that. I think there are many things that you could do to make money. I own an e-commerce business, and we do very well in that, but it's not necessarily purposeful or meaningful or gratifying. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we sell products, we manufacture them in China, import them and sell them. I mean, that's not necessarily what I would call a significant, occupation. But the truth is I can take that money, at which I just got out of a meeting with our team, and we talked about things that we can do with that money to significantly impact the lives of other people. And my point in being is don't try to place all of your significance on what you do occupationally. And here's the other thing related to that, Sean, is that if you don't find something that has purpose, the chances of you staying with it long term are negligible. Because motivation is an exhaustible resource. It'll only keep you hyped up so long. If you're passionate about it, that's good, but that's going to fizzle out as well. You've got to have some sense of purpose in your main occupation that you do each and every day, and that'll keep you there long term.
Yeah, absolutely. And it reminds me of a conversation we had just 2 episodes ago, episode number 25 with, I'm not sure if you're familiar with John Rivers, but he started Four Rivers Smokehouse down in Florida. Now they have over a dozen of these smokehouses. He was in pharmaceuticals, left pharmaceuticals, had this ministry through their church they were doing out of their garage to feed people and make money for the church. And long story short, now they still have that same mindset, but apply that to these businesses they run. And all their marketing is essentially done through this ministry mindset, and it pays off big time.
Yeah, we're all in some form of ministry. It doesn't matter what you do. If you're a person of faith and whatever you're doing, you're in some sort of ministry. And we consider everything we do that because a lot of people talk about giving, and we talk about giving nonstop. We do a thing called Gratitude Day, where I take my grandchildren, we spend all day long doing things anonymously, helping other people, and it's one of the most impactful days of their life. See, we miss those opportunities each and every day as professionals. We all could do that every single day and help other people move forward. And what's amazing is I spend a big amount of my time encouraging other people, edifying them, empowering them, connecting people. I do endorsements. I do testimonials for people before they ask. And then our inbox is full of saying, hey, I want to introduce you to this guy. Chris, I want you to meet Sean, or Aaron, you need to meet this guy. See, but when you don't do that, when you're not the giver, nobody wants to help you. And see, it's the same thing as like when your phone rings and it's Billy. It's like Billy wants something. Probably something comes to your mind when Billy calls. Well, what comes to people's mind when your number shows up on their phone? Is it he's going to bring light, he's going to bring excitement, empowerment, or he's going to suck the life out of the room or want to borrow your lawnmower? You know, what is it this guy wants? So you intentionally reach out to people to build these relationships that I talked on earlier to impact and to move your life forward. We make it, Sean, quite honestly, much more difficult than it is to be successful in business. All you've got to do is try to add value and quit trying to make the sale, and the sales will come.
I want to dial it back just a little bit to when you were growing your first company years back and you became very successful at a young age. When you look back, what would you say some of the characteristics you had, some of the either strategies you implemented, some of the things that you did to achieve that success?
Yeah, great question. And I know I am confronted with this on a daily basis with folks today when I'm coaching them. And the thing that I think that I had in my generation that a lot of people miss today is delayed gratification. See, we have the internet now. I didn't have that when I was a young guy. And so I wasn't exposed to a number of things that you're exposed to today. I had a guy recently read my book and he called me and he said, I've got an interesting observation. And I said, what is it? He said, when you were 18 years old, there weren't many opportunities. And he said, you took it and ran with it and you crushed it. He said, today there are so many opportunities. I'm paralyzed. I don't even know which one to do. So I don't do any of them. And I think that is so true, and we need to be paying attention to that. We have the shiny object syndrome today because everywhere you look, there's opportunity. There's not a better time to live than today because you can make more money today faster than any time in history. But the problem is we want all the benefits immediately. We live in a microwave society to where you see it on the internet nonstop and you're like, man, I want this bigger house. I don't care what the cost is. I just want to know what my payments are. I want the nicest car, the nicest vacations. You're always comparing yourself to someone else. You know, you're comparing your beginning to their middle or to their end. And a lot of people do that today. Like, hey, Big A, you've been successful in all these companies and I want to do what you do. It's like, hey, I've got 38 years on you, right? And we elected to delay gratification. Here's what we did, Sean and Chris. This I think will be helpful to some of you. I told Robin when we got married, she was 18, I was 19. I said, Robin, we can't screw this up. We may never get this chance again. So what we're going to do, every dollar we make, we're going to put it back into the business. For 9 years, I lived on an $18,000 salary. And you're like, Big A, you've lost your mind. $18,000. We paid off a 10-year loan in 36 months. So I was 21 years old. We had a paid-for business. And then I duplicated that again, and then again, and then again. I kept pouring the money back into the company. Then I had something a Fortune 500 company wanted to buy. Let's go back. 21 years old, paid-for business. Why don't I go get a big house on the lake, get a nicer car? Well, I would have made a decent living, but I never would have had something to sell to a Fortune 500. We learned to delay gratification, and I lived like no one else, so later I could live like no one else. And I want to encourage you, if you're listening to me today, don't suck all the money out of your company. Pour it back into your company, delay gratification, and then when you get my age, you can do whatever you want.
I love that. I think you hit the nail on the head with that because, yeah, like you said, with the social media, we see the success around us and we want that right now. But like you said, you have 38 years on a lot of the folks listening here. I think one of the things too is, you know, how do we define success? Are we playing by the same rules as someone else? You know, I think we try and measure ourselves against someone else when they might not want the same things that we do.
You'll always lose comparing yourself to anybody. I wrote my book recently. I'll give you this as an example. And I didn't really want to write the book at the time. And let me tell you why. In my mastermind group that sat on my left was Ken Abraham. And if you'll Google Ken Abraham, he has 115 books in print. Mm-hmm. Anybody that's anybody, he's been their ghostwriter. Okay, Google him and look him up. Sitting on my right was Dave Ramsey that sells millions and millions of copies of books a year. Across the table from me is Dan Miller selling millions of books a year. He's got 8 books in print. And I'm like, who's going to read my book, right? Ken Davis was in a mastermind group with me. He wrote Fully Alive. And I got up before the group and said, I want to write a book, but you know what? I'll never sell as many as any of these guys. And it's keeping me, I was comparing my beginning to their end or their middle. And Ken Davis, here's what he said. He said, Abram, when I wrote Fully Alive, 17 people emailed me the first year and said, as a result of reading your book, I didn't commit suicide. He said, now, what if you write your book and one life is changed? I said, you're daggone right. And I spent the next 18 months writing my book, thinking how I could impact somebody else's life rather than competing with Ken Abraham or Dan Miller or Dave Ramsey. See, what I'm saying is you gotta quit comparing. You cannot compare what you're doing. You're called to do a specific thing, whatever that is. God has gifted you with something. For me, I feel it's a sense of encouragement and empowerment, seeing things in other people they don't see in themselves and getting it out of them. That's why I'm a coach. That's why I help people do that. I can't compare. I got to stay in my lane. I got to do what I'm gifted at.
So, Aaron, question for you. For those individuals that might be caught up in comparing, how would you then change their mindset? How would you take that negative energy and channel that positively? What would you have them say to themselves in the moment? How would you have them look at that?
Yeah, all success is a mindset shift, without a question. Carol Dweck wrote Mindset. You either have a growth or a fixed mindset, one or the other. Let me explain those. A growth mindset is hopefully what I have that says, hey, I don't know how to do it today, but I'll figure it out. And I used to tell my daughters when they were young, I'd say, that guy is successful, and the only reason he knows something you don't. We got to figure that out. We got to figure out the systems. We got to figure out the processes. The fixed mindset says, it's just the way I was born. It's just the hand I was dealt. I'm like, that's not true. We choose to have the mindset that we have. We can elect to do that, but you can't do it alone. You got to get people around you. And that's the reason, as I said earlier, accountability, mastermind groups, you've got to have people around you on an ongoing basis. Here's the other thing that I think is important for this interview, and I want to really stress this. I do 3 or 4 Facebook Lives a week, and I've done that for a couple of years now, and I write 3 blogs a week, and, we're pretty active in social media, but I'm very transparent. If you read my book, you'll see just how vulnerable I am. I let that shield down because strength starts when you're transparent and vulnerable. If you've got that shield up and it's like, hey, I don't want Chris to know this, or if Sean knew this about me, he wouldn't think I'm the man anymore. Well, that's a bunch of bull. The truth is when I let the wall down and go, Chris, I really don't know. Or Sean, I really don't understand that, man. You help me. Then it allows me to help you because there's now this shield, this facade that is gone. And then you build from strength and you go up. And that is where the strength begins. And that's the reason I'm so raw in the book that I wrote. That's the reason I tell about the bitterness struggles that I had, the challenges that I had in life. And I even share that today. Listen, my wife and I got into a fuss last night. You cut me, I bleed. I'm real. You know what I'm saying? I'm a person. It's not that I'm all this successful. Here's what happens. Young guys like you guys see guys that are successful, and those guys never tell you their challenges, and you go, what's wrong with me? Nothing's wrong with you. They're just not sharing with you the challenges that they've had, the failures that they've had, because they think you'll think less of them. I want to tell you right now, I have had ebbs and flows, mountaintops and valleys, but I want to encourage you. You have to fail in order to succeed. You always learn in the valley. You never learn on the mountaintop, ever. You never learn through success. You always learn through failure. And I just want to encourage you, get there sooner than later so that you can find out what doesn't work and so you can eradicate it and eliminate it from what you're trying to do to go to the next level. Stop caring about what other people think and then adopt a mindset. My mom would not allow me to say the word can't when I was a child. She'd say, you might not be able to do it, but you're going to try. Well, as a result of that, It built great self-esteem because she forced me to try things. And I'm like, man, I can do this. She had a saying, and I titled the first chapter of my book this: can't, couldn't do it, but could, did it all. And I've developed that mindset in everything I've done. I can't do it today, but you give me a little while, you give me a coach, you give me a little resources behind it, I'll figure out how to do it. You adopt the mindset. You are your worst enemy. You push through these upper limit challenges like we were talking about, and it opens a whole new set of doors. And so I just want to encourage you that get people around you that can push you through these upper limit challenges.
Well, and maybe, Aaron, that's a good place to kind of dovetail into speaking about the whole idea of a mastermind. A lot of people listening, I'm sure, are familiar with masterminds. But could you just, I know you also have the other book that you wrote, the Mastermind Blueprint. Could you talk a little bit about maybe a little bit about that book and what you have found out of the masterminds themselves?
Well, yeah, let me focus more on the benefits of it rather than trying to sell any of my books. But the benefit of the Mastermind Group absolutely radically transformed my life decades ago. And here's why. Is that when you're alone, that's a lonely place to be. You know, you only have one filter. You only have one life experience. You can only see it one way. Recently, we had a construction project at my house. We were trying to make two things work, and we had engineers there, we had builders there, we had subcontractors there. Nobody could fix it. We stood in the driveway and we looked at the house. Nobody could fix it. 2 weeks later, I'm sitting on the patio behind the house, and I'm on a coaching call, and I'm looking at it from a different perspective, and I solved it immediately. Well, that's the same things mastermind groups do. They look at it from different perspectives. You don't know what you don't know. You don't have the life experiences that help you solve this problem. You don't have the filters in place on every situation. But when you have trusted advisors, you have guys that have the same core values, guys that are high in moral character, people that are honest, people that don't have anything to gain or lose as a result of what they tell you. Why would you not want to listen to those people? And see, that's what I've done for decades now. I'd go in and Dave Ramsey or Dan would go, that's the craziest idea I've ever heard you say in my life. Well, it would embarrass me, sure, but I'd much rather be embarrassed in that group of 10 that I had in front of the world and invest hundreds of thousands of dollars. In the shower, I have all these great ideas, right? Everybody does. But when you get it around people that are intelligent, that are smart, that have nothing to gain or lose by telling you, they're going to tell you the truth. We had one guy launched a product. He came to us, showed us the product. Oh my gosh, it was terrible. The music was bad, too many slides. It was terrible. We said, man, this sucks so bad. Here's what you need to do. And we had him to change 2 or 3 things. It was amazing. It was a success. If he hadn't had those guys around him, see, who do you have in your life? Who are those trusted advisors? That's the reason you need to be in a mastermind. Second reason, the accountability. You're not going to go in that group and tell them you're going to do something and show up week after week and not do it. Our biggest enemy is procrastination. Number one, biggest enemy, procrastination. Hey, nobody knows, and I said I was going to do it, but I'll do it next week. I'll do it next month. I'll do it next quarter. We keep kicking the can down the road. But when you come in there and read Brian Moran's book, The 12-Week Year, and you go, you know what? I got 12 weeks to do this task. And every single day, these are the tasks I'm going to do to accomplish this goal. And I want you to hold me accountable because every week I'm going to give you a report on my outcome. There's lead indicators every single week. You know what happens? You develop a strategy that you don't procrastinate any longer. You can get 2 or 3 times done more in an annual basis than you would if you didn't have that level of accountability. There's just countless things. Privately, I was in a bad spot years ago. I mean, I was in a dark spot. Sean or Chris, I don't know if y'all have ever been in a really deep hole you couldn't get out of or not. I was there. And I went in week after week talking about that to my mastermind group. I get a call from James Ryle. Some of you guys may know him. He was with Promise Keepers. He traveled all over the world. Best speaker, storyteller I've ever heard in my life. And I was at Ace Hardware on a Saturday morning. My phone rang and I looked and it was him. Well, I got really excited. I said, this is going to be really good or really bad. I don't know which because we never talk to each other on the weekends. I answered the phone. He goes, hey, Aaron, James Ryle. I said, hey, James. He said, this morning I was thinking about you, this hole you're in. And I said, yeah. He goes, have you got a minute? I said, sure, man. What is it? He said, you're wearing the hell out of everybody in our group. And I started laughing. Well, he didn't. He just sat there. I said, excuse me? I mean, we're buddies, decade, we've been in a group together. He goes, man, we are so sick of hearing you bellyache about this problem. You go on and on and on about this all the time. He said, this morning I was reading in Scripture in Isaiah. It said, take the chains from around your neck and move on. It's time you were moving on. See you, brother. I got to go. And hung up. Man, Chris, I was so mad I could have bit a nail into. I ain't kidding. I said, man, this guy has screwed up my whole weekend. And then I thought, you know what? This guy loves me enough to tell me the truth. Next Wednesday morning, I go in Dave Ramsey's office, and I walk around the table, and there he stood. I'm 6'4", weigh 230. I'm a big guy. He's not as big. And I walked up to him, and I hugged him. And I told him I loved him. And I said, I want to tell you, man, thank you, because you radically changed my life. It changed my life, him telling me that. I needed somebody around me to tell me the truth. See, if you don't invest your time, effort, and energy in people, how are they going to help you? How are they going to tell you the truth? They don't have permission because you haven't invested the time. And so, guys, listen to me. Get your own group. Start your own group. It doesn't matter to me. Get in a group. Meet weekly. It'll radically change your life.
I love it. So, so, so powerful. Now, let me ask, for the individuals that are thinking of starting in with a mastermind group or starting one and running one on a granular level, what are some of the best practices that individuals that are in that master group can either expect or that are running the master group should be implementing?
Yeah, great question. Let me just tell you how ours are set up. And obviously, we set it up the way we think's best. Very structured. Our groups have 10 men in every group. My COO, Tom Schwab, is in every meeting. I'm in every meeting. I facilitate the groups. We have 10 men. We have a theme every month, like how's making your business bigger, making your life better. That's one theme, for example. We'll read a book that coincides with that theme. Every single week, there are 3 questions printed in the directory. You can come prepared to answer those 3 questions related to your reading assignment. We do 2 men in the middle. Every week, you have 15 minutes. You put in the Facebook prior to the meeting. These are my 3 questions, personal or professional. Whatever you're struggling with, hey, this is bad in my personal life, or these are 2 business things that I can't get my hands around. I need resources. I need whatever, and here's my problem. All 10 guys plus Tom and myself, or the groups that have coaches that are facilitating, circle around you. We pay 100% attention to your problems, and we deal with that. Twice a year, we have a live meetup. Come to Nashville on my dime. Everybody gets here. I pay for the room. I pay for the food, the entertainment, everything. We have a 2-day live meetup where we just had 65 guys come to Evans Mill just outside of Nashville, and it is the most powerful experience you've ever been around. When you go from daylight to midnight for 2.5 days and you forge those relationships with people, it is indescribable what it does for you. The biggest thing is that accountability tool. We fill it out every Saturday. There's 10 things you rank yourself in: your family, your wife, your children, the way you give money, charitable contributions, your ISI, which is Iron Sharpens Iron contribution, your reading assignment. You rank yourself every week. And if we're like, hey, man, you're a 5 every week with your wife, what is the deal? Like, it's time for a date night. Your marriage is going to run off in the ditch if you're not careful. Or why aren't you reducing debt? Or why aren't you saving money? Or why aren't you exercising? You pay attention to these top 10 lead indicators every single week. How in the world could you not be a better person? And you're not going to come to that group not having done it. So every week you develop this discipline and you develop this level of accountability, and then you see people's businesses skyrocketing, taking off. We have people going in business together now, vacationing together, building lifelong friendships. And that's the way we do masterminds. And when you do them regimented and they're scheduled and everything is detailed out, man, you get in there, it starts 1 hour later, you're done. You come back next week with your assignment, you go again. And there again, as I said earlier, it's the consistency. If you don't and are not willing to develop the energy that it takes to do anything consistently, don't even start it. It just upsets me so bad. These guys do something for 4 weeks and they didn't get any results and they quit. You're never going to be successful at anything. I did 187 podcast interviews last year. I did 190 days this year to promote my book. I've done over 500 podcast interviews. People say, Big A, aren't you tired? Yeah, my voice is worn out. I laid out at night, and it's like I've squeezed every drop out of the towel. Don't leave nothing on the field because I want to give everything I've got. And I do it year after year, and we've developed a very significant brand now as a result of it. You can do the same thing. Grit, determination, perseverance. I'm telling you, it pays off, but you've got to do it consistently. You've got to have a plan, and you've got to stay on track and execute on the plan. And if you do that, you're going to be successful.
Absolutely. So just to clarify, when you guys are facilitating the mastermind groups, are these individuals coming to you already formed, looking for somebody to help facilitate them? Or are you taking people that have maybe applied and finding personalities and industries that might complement each other and then meshing them that way?
We do it both ways. We have groups where it's very diverse, and we put people in that are in very diverse industries. We have people that just started that are brand new entrepreneurs, and we have people that do $100 million a year in top line revenue, and they may be in the same group. We have other groups that we're forming now that are going to be industry specific. We've got other groups that we're going to say, in order to be in this group, your top line revenue needs to be this because you have other issues to deal with like transition, succession plans, selling of the business, et cetera, that they're interested. So as we grow, we're segmenting those groups. We're also developing a process for a done-for-you mastermind to where we will manage everything. All you do is show up and facilitate the group, and we manage book distribution, collecting the money, giving the questions, giving the themes, handling every single thing for you. We also have the ability to sell you that process, and then you can go do it yourself. So we're really taking masterminds to a whole different level, and we're giving you options. You can join our group. We can give you the systems and the processes. You can do it yourself, or we'll manage it for you.
Just to kind of round things out, we have a lot of our audience is entrepreneurs, some of them aspiring entrepreneurs. They have that kind of mindset. What would you say to that individual that is pre-startup? They want to develop something. They want to have something of their own. Are there success principles, a way of thinking, a mindset for them to really start getting traction?
Yeah, I think it depends on what it is that you're wanting to do. A lot of the folks that I see today have a brand new brand idea or a product that they want to launch, and the resources are limited. And that's a real hard uphill battle to start out of the gate doing that. So I think it just depends on what it is that you're trying to do. You either need to be the best at something, or there needs to be no other like it in order to be very successful with it if you don't have the resources to promote new brands or new products. There's great books out there that talk about category design. Play Bigger is one of them. That's a great read if you're looking for something to read. Disrupt You, Jay Samit, the guy that I just spoke about, is another good read in order to help you understand that. Ryan Holiday wrote The Obstacle is the Way. That's a great book because it helps you overcome the obstacles and look at them differently in the new process that you're starting, because normally the obstacle is the way, and that's true, and you'll understand that once you read that book. So there's 2 or 3 resources for you to help you formulate an idea in order to start your next project.
And as you're starting that project, I know you haven't always maybe had your priorities in the best order. I know for myself, it's been a lot of that. And in the last couple of years, have gotten really clear on, what's important, how I want to spend my time, how I want to impact people. How do you balance that when you're starting a new company or a new project, or maybe you're just working for somebody else, but you're working long hours, and keeping your family and other things also important and that kind of thing?
Yeah, I really messed this up early on. I wasn't a bad person, but I loved to work, and it interfered with my family a bit. And if I had it to go over, some things I would do the same, because there are seasons in your life where you have to work more, but you really need to prioritize your priorities. Roy Vaden is a friend of mine, and he wrote a great book. He lives here in Nashville, and he talks at length about that in his book about prioritizing your priorities. And I really had to take a long look at that, because I was thinking that if I make just $50,000 more or open another store, then it's going to scratch the itch. But when I got it, it was like, well, this feels cool, but it didn't last long. Quite honestly, it didn't scratch the itch like I thought it was. Or I would say, I'll be happy then. Like, you fill in the blank. If I get this debt paid off, if I get one more store, then I'll be happy. See, happiness is a choice, not a trait. And we choose to be happy each and every day, even in your current circumstances. And I know a lot of people listening to me are in a bad situation, but there is things to be grateful for. Seth Bueckley is a friend of mine. He wrote a book called Gratitude. And he talks about how gratitude doesn't come on the other side of success. Gratitude comes from when you decide that you're not going to be complacent but content. And so we have to elect to do these things. Second of all, I think you really need to map out what success means to you. And everybody defines it differently. In the beginning, I thought it was tangible things. I thought it was more money, more security. But really what it is relationships. For me, it was, I love to choose my own schedule, and I love to have financial freedom. So those things were important to me in success. But more importantly to me than that was engaging family and meaningful relationships. You know, as I've said twice before, I'm a Christ follower, so that's paramount for me. That's my number one priority. And then my wife, then my daughters, then my grandchildren, then my business. And if you keep those things in that order and you build boundaries to protect that, you'll always be successful. But then I started thinking through other things that would allow me to be successful. And I want a clear conscience, right, with every transaction. I want to be sure that I'm not cheating anybody, that I'm helping people. I want to take care of myself physically. I want to learn to be content but not complacent. And a lot of people get those confused. A lot of people get a lot of money and they say, I'm going to just take it easy. That's complacency. See, I love to pedal to the metal, but I want a greater purpose. I want to keep moving forward. We're built to grow. We're not built to be complacent. I want to learn to have a clear sense of direction in everything that I do. I love to dream. I'm a dreamer. I mean, I see the big picture. I'm not in the details, but I'm a visionary. I see the big picture. I want to establish goals, and I want to have a meaning and purpose. And at the end of the day, for me, success would mean that the people that I left behind said that I left a legacy of wisdom. But the other side of that coin, if I could talk just a moment longer, I know I get long-winded, but is the significance piece. See, for me, is significance means to meet the needs of others. It means to fully engage other people, listen intently to them, stop waiting your turn to talk, and really pay attention. Chris, have you ever been to a restaurant with somebody and maybe you've never been with them before? Every time the door opens, they're looking to see, or they're looking at every table, and they want to see who else is in there. You know, it's kind of like guys with a remote. They don't care what's on. They want to know what's they're missing, right? Mm-hmm. And you really pay honor to people when you learn to put peripheral blinders on, hypothetically speaking, and engage people and look in their eyes and don't be distracted. See, that's significant. That means people matter. That means you care what I'm saying. But most people are just waiting for their turn to talk. They're not even hearing what you're saying. They're just thinking about what they're about to say. And I've learned to listen to other people because they matter. Helping others when they can't repay you is a big thing for us. We want to intentionally help others. We want to be available for others when it's not convenient for us. Everybody says, I'm busy, or big A, I would give money too if I had more. Well, I want to challenge that thinking because money doesn't change the heart. It magnifies what's already there. And if you're not giving today at some level, if you had $10 million, you wouldn't give anything then either. And then you want to learn to have the foresight to invest long term so that you could potentially impact generations to come. And then when you have that mindset, you can be successful and significant simultaneously.
And the money kind of takes care of itself.
Well, the money is the byproduct of doing a good job and offering services and value. I tell people this all the time when I'm coaching. Quit paying attention to trying to make the sale and figure out another way to add value. And see, when you do that, you're going to get the money. I went to buy a car, and I walked up, had a pair of shorts on, and a T-shirt and flip-flops and a ball cap. I guess the guy thought I didn't have any money. And I said, I want this color car, this color interior, this is the year I want, this is the model I want. He said, I got just that car, but it's not blue, it's red. I said, I don't want a red car. I said, I want a blue car, brown leather interior, this is the year, this is the model, this is what I want. He said, the red car's got rebates on it, and I can make you a deal on it today. Well, it pissed me off. I got mad. And I told Robin, I said, let's go. He said, can I get your card? And I said, yeah. And I handed him my card. I got in the car and I left. A week later, he calls me back. I found your car. I said, forget it. I don't even want it. Forget it. And I hung up. Here's the thing, Chris. If he had gone inside and he had found a blue car with that color leather interior, I would have wrote him a check. I said, when the car gets here, call me, I'll come get it. He was too busy trying to make the sale. He wasn't trying to meet my needs. Guys, listen, quit trying to make the sale. Listen to your customers and meet their needs, and the money will come.
Well, Aaron, that might be a great place to kind of wrap things up with. Do you have any kind of final thoughts to leave the audience with?
I just want to tell you that if you are afraid, if you're that entrepreneur that is afraid, stop being afraid. I want you to go out there and go for it, because life is so fun, to go for it. Sometimes you're going to win. Sometimes you're going to lose. Don't bet the farm. Don't put your family in jeopardy. That's not what I'm saying. But take a percentage of your net worth, percentage of your income, and go for it. Because I brought a C home on my report card one time, and my mom told me, she said, this is not allowable. I said, what do you mean? That's average. And she said, yeah, I know. That means you're just as close to the bottom as you are the top. And she said, you're above average and you can do better. Well, I want to tell you guys that don't settle for average. If you want a life that is amazing, be willing to roll the dice to some degree and go for it, because there is a lot of life to live out there. And I want you to fulfill your purpose and your dreams, and I want you to crush it. So, guys, Chris, Sean, thank you for having me today. Hopefully something I've said will impact someone. If you guys are interested in reaching me, you can find me at viewfromthetop.com. And if you want to get an amazing mastermind group, sign an application there, and I'd love to have you guys in my group.
Well, Aaron, thank you so much. It's been a wealth of knowledge, and we really appreciate your thoughtfulness.
Thanks a lot, bud. Have a good one. We'll see.
You too. And that was our conversation with Aaron Walker. Sean, I know you enjoyed it. I had a blast. Trying to boil it down to one or two takeaways is kind of hard for me, but I'll think about it. What you got?
Well, first, I don't know how many times I said either inspirational or amazing. Do you have a count of that? Do you have like a tick sheet?
I ran it on both my hands, so and the 2 digits at least.
Yeah. It really resonated with me. Everything that he said, he shared, his story, his background. There was just a lot of things that resonated. There were parallels in my life in terms of the lessons learned. And so it was really, really neat to be able to connect with him. I think 2 of them for me was one of the things that he said about you should fear missing an opportunity more than you fear failure. I think that is a powerful mindset shift. It's something that I struggle with, fear that is. I struggled in a lot of ways with fear for many, many, many years. And now I struggle less, but it's still there. And I think that's just a great mindset to have. And then the other thing is the enemy to excellence is isolation. I absolutely love that. And I can tell you that I've spent so many hours in a home office just grinding out alone when I should have been connecting more with people. And it was when I started connecting with more people, yourself included, that I started really experiencing higher levels of success, or more fulfillment, or more significance, as he would put it, because I felt connected more. So I really, really like those 2 points. What about you?
Yeah, well, and just to kind of piggyback off that, I agree 100%. I worked so many long nights at the restaurant, writing or trying to come up with new ideas or new projects, and did a lot of that, on my own. And, having, my fiance now, Tina, in my life was great, but she didn't understand in the same way that somebody like yourself is able to now for me. So I think it's obviously super important to be able to tap into the people that are important to us, not just our spouses and loved ones, but the people that we can connect with on a work and career level. For me, aside from that, I loved, and it was very quick and simple what he said. But he said, when somebody calls you, what are they going to think? Meaning that, okay, like, Chris is calling me. Is he going to be asking me for money again, or is he going to be asking me for a favor, whatever it might be? Or is somebody going to be excited knowing that Chris is going to be providing value or share some exciting news, and knowing that, like, we kind of paint that picture of what people see us as really every single day, and just understanding how we're showing up, and knowing that the more we're giving, the more we're contributing to other people's lives, the more they're going to want to be there to help us and empower us. So I love that. And just, on top of everything else, one of the through lines throughout the whole talk was this idea of significance, and how really, if you create significance in your life and the people around you and make the world a better place, then success kind of takes care of itself for you. Y'all let us know what you think. We had a blast chatting with Aaron. Sean, I feel like after talking with Aaron for an hour, I feel like we're best buds and I could share anything with him.
Oh, yeah. I completely agree.
And with that, we'll leave you with a quote from Aaron from our conversation with him just now, where he said, "Fear missing an opportunity more than you fear failure." And with that, we're signing off.